Welcome to the podcast, The Process with Walter Beede and Coach Fouts here. Walter, it's I don't know about your text and communications, but I've been getting lit up like crazy, the information that we are sharing here on The Process. And, it's one of the things that I love doing the most part of my day or whatever time we try to record this. That's one of my favorite times. Just thinking, how can we add value to these families' lives? You and I both have been down some roads, and you and I both every day are working with athletes and parents. And today's topic, Walter, I think it'd be really good to discuss is, should my kid focus on only baseball, or should he focus on doing other things, other sports, playing multiple sports, enjoying, and why? Which one is going to be the best for him? If he knows he wants to play college baseball at 14 years old, like for example, I got a text yesterday from a mom, and 14-year-old boy, the high school football coach told him he needs to focus on football. He don't need to play baseball. Then he went to his baseball coach. His baseball coach told him he needs to focus on football. If not, that means he don't love baseball enough. And I'm seeing this over and over, Walter, and I just think it'd be a real good topic for us today. And I know you have a great perspective on this. So I'm just going to ask you a question. Walter, I've got a 14-year-old boy. He was told by the football coach to focus on football, told by the baseball coach to focus on baseball. As a parent, I'm asking for your wisdom here. What should I do?
Well, both you and I do spend a lot of time with parents, and parents each and every day get more and more overwhelmed and frustrated. And what I try to explain to parents is this is really, truly not our decision. If we break this down, and when I get asked this question, I'll always say, well, first and foremost, I need to hear from your student athlete, or what does your son or daughter, what do they say? Do they really enjoy the other sports? Do they enjoy being around their peers? Not only at their school but competing against their peer groups from around their region. And if the answer is yes, I always emphatically will say to parents that that is the direction you should allow your children to pursue. I think what we lose sight of is, and I think what parents need to take more control of and be more disciplined with regard to speaking to outside coaches, even if it's the local high school coaches, is no adult should dictate to a child what is essentially a once in a lifetime. There is only one definitive time period in our children's lives where they are allowed to diversify and explore. And that's really between, those teenage years into their early 20s. So if we say middle school through college, and then after that, obviously, college will become more of a focus, a singular sport. But after that, obviously, they become adults. So I think it's really disappointing that adults would ever put a teenager in that position. Now, I've had people within the world of soccer explain to me that soccer requires this skill set with regard to utilizing the feet, and that we don't do enough skill set development with the feet in soccer, unlike other hand orientated sports, i.e., hockey, baseball, lacrosse, basketball, football, et cetera, where our hands are involved. But, over and above soccer, I really think multiple sports allows athletes to develop physical and mental disciplines cohesively throughout the course of a year without burning out or getting hurt by focusing on one singular sport. Like for a baseball coach to ever say to a student athlete, and I don't care what level, and I get a lot of people that'll get in my direct messages or text messages, you're an idiot, you're a buffoon, telling parents they shouldn't focus on all baseball all the time. But nobody in my era, and I'm a dinosaur at 63, ever. It was like a badge of honor to be a three-sport athlete or a two-sport athlete. subsequently, as a dad, my sons played all kinds of sports. And at a very early age, my youngest son was told repeatedly, you're going to get hurt. You're going to lose opportunities. You're going to miss this. You're going to miss that. And ultimately, when I step back, and for parents in today's world, it's a business decision for other adults. It's a personal decision within you're under your roof. And you need to be more direct and candid. If your athlete enjoys multiple sports, basketball or football or lacrosse or what have you, soccer, okay, great. Let them play and let them figure it out. And I promise you, if your athletes are skilled, there is no coach at the varsity level that's going to turn their backs on a football, baseball player, a basketball, baseball player, a lacrosse, baseball player, although lacrosse in some states has a similar season. So I think it's really tough for those parents that are putting that. And I know you and I both deal with that pretty much on a daily basis.
Yeah, let's talk about just the overall what's best for the body, Walter. I'll never forget when Pearson was probably around 13 or 14. They're still going through that growth spurt, and there was probably 5 or 6 boys that I knew of that had like fractured backs, just over swinging. They play baseball 24/7 all year round. I've got a couple of friends in lacrosse that played, their son played lacrosse all year round. Same thing, had issues with the back, all these different things. And when I was growing up, people would ask, what was your favorite sport? And I said, well, if it's football season, it's football. If it's basketball, it's basketball. If it's baseball, it's baseball. So just talk real quick based on your experience on just how healthy it is to work different muscle groups and different sports, which turns you into an overall athlete. And talk to us from the recruiting side as how important it is for these college coaches to call you about one of your athletes and for them to say, Walter, you got an athlete on your hand. Talk about just how important that is as well to be attractive when they get older, being a well-rounded athlete.
Well, I think where we lose perspective is those adults or coaches that want to tell parents and set these ground rules, my way or the highway. It's either all year round or all year participation, whether it's travel and high school combined. Do any professional sports do that? Do any colleges really do that? There's a time and a place, later on in life when both physical and mental maturity begin to sync up. But the benefit from being a multiple sport athlete, which, I really get irritated when I hear people talk about what needs to be done in order to become an elite athlete, is going to somehow be there's a correlation between the 13-year-old and the 18-year-old version of what will become a 20 to 25-year-old athlete or 19 to 24-year-old athlete. First of all, there's a massive physical maturation occurring between those 13 and 18-year-old years. You and I have talked to Tommy Moffitt. We've talked to numerous strength coaches, and all of them to a T talk about recovery, replenishment, all of the requirements with regard to sleep. And what happens when you have a multiple sport athlete, we begin to target and focus on different muscle groups. And at the same time, we also begin to really understand the mental disciplines with regard to, like football. By the fourth quarter, there's fatigue that's set in, there's stiffness, there's soreness, but yet we have to make split-second decisions with regard to coverages and executions. Same with basketball and lacrosse. It's fast twitch, it's fast-paced. But we're developing muscle groups and growing into who we ultimately will become physically and obviously from a mature mental perspective. And so I think we have not allowed children to really allow their childhood to be their own.
Yeah.
We've all of a sudden, as adults or coaches, we think there's a script. We think there's a secret pathway. We think we have all of the answers, and nobody really has all the answers. I mean, we have opinions, obviously, but let's stop and think about who are we to say to a 14-year-old child, hey man, if you want to be a really good athlete in your sport of baseball, you cannot play other sports. You cannot do other training. And then we're asking these athletes to worry about metrics and analytics and certain numbers when they're not physically capable. And then it begins to stress the mind. I mean, you and I really, when we're talking to these young athletes, we hear it in their voices. We see it in their faces and their body language. First of all, whenever they begin to see growth, whether it be physical or skill set wise, they get excited.
Right.
But when we deny them that, we're kind of trying to be this ogre and standing and lurching over. And I think it all gets attributed to one thing, Jeremy. Certain coaches or adults want to be able to put their thumbprints and be able to say, hey, I created that. I did that. When in reality, all we're doing is trying to be what I call a mentor. We need to be a mentor, but we need to let children grow at their own spaces and places and ages and stages.
Yeah. I think it was Nick Saban that used to go to basketball games to recruit his wide receivers and defensive backs, and that just sums it all up right there. You got one of the best coaches of all eras, and he would go watch a football player he's trying to recruit to go watch him play basketball.
Now, I'm going to tell you a story on that note. I don't know if you remember this name. Dick McPherson used to be the head coach of football at Syracuse when Syracuse was really the Big East was they were a machine back in the 70s and 80s, Syracuse football, top 25 team. And he would come to basketball games. I have a very good friend of mine named Mike LeBlanc. And I just remember asking Coach McPherson, what was it about basketball that made him want to come and see an athlete? And he said, Walt, he said, in football, they have helmets on. And in baseball, it's too sporadic, meaning I don't get to see for any significant length of time a game face. He said, but in basketball, I get to see the competitive, piece.
Right.
Because I see by the eyes and I see the facial expressions, I see the competitiveness, within regard to physicality and when to kind of push my will around and really get physical. And I see that competitive nature. And that is really what we're missing out on. And we're being told or instructed that coaches don't care about that. But in reality, I think I've talked to over 230 college coaches over the last 3 years, and almost to a man, every single college head baseball coach will say, we recruit athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Athletes. That doesn't mean we dictate that they play multiple sports, but if they do, we encourage that. We give our blessings to that. And if they are, and they're the ultimate coaches, by the way, then why are we as adults trying to block that?
That's powerful. That's powerful, Walter. So just let your kids be kids. I'm going to ask you a question when we get back from this break, and I'm going to have you to explain the right mindset of the parent and the athlete in going through this process from 12, 13, 14, 15. And then remind me if I don't bring it up, I want to ask your opinion on a incoming junior here in a second. So we'll be right back.
Athletes, electrolytes matter, but you got to choose the right electrolytes. If you look at the sugars, 34 grams, the dyes, all the things that's not good for you in this product, this is a hype product. If you look here at the electrolytes made by Beede, it's got the right amount of magnesium, sodium, potassium, zinc, kosher salt. It's got vitamin C to help with the immune system. I'm telling you, if you want to stay on the field, you want to perform at your best, you want to recover well, this is the product that you need to choose to fuel your body as an athlete.
Okay, Walter, I want to ask you this question, and I get this all the time where parents it's almost like they can't enjoy the memories. They can't enjoy the moments because they have all this anxiety. They're thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? And I think so many times the parents, instead of focusing on the moment, enjoying that ride, enjoying these little things, they get caught up in this pressure. And then I've got an incoming junior I was visiting with that just started the meal plan with me. He's a catcher, really good defensive catcher, left-handed hitter. And he was just like, he had a bad game and he's like, man, I couldn't hit. And I'm like, what's the problem? He said, man, I just feel like I got to have a scholarship right now, and I'm like, well, you're incoming junior. It's okay. We got time. So kind of give us both sides of, I know what you do on a daily basis is talking to those older kids. We've talked a lot about this, but I don't want to go into how it's delayed and that as much, but just telling the older boy that's going into his junior year, relax. Let's go day by day and control what we control. And the younger parents or the younger kids that the parents are like, oh, should I take them to this? Should I take them to that? How would you just kind of work both sides of that, of letting them know this is the process, trust the process, keep developing, no anxiety, enjoy every moment?
Well, I think it's important. Let's start with the parents of the 8 through 14-year-olds. They're the ones literally driving the car, right? And they're the ones, the student athlete really doesn't have a lot of decision-making capabilities, and the parents are the ones that are trying to look into the camps or look into the events. And I think it's really important for parents of the 8 through 14-year-olds to understand there is nothing, zero, zip, nada going on with regard to recruiting, and nothing that's happening with regard to skill sets at 8 to 14 is really going to play any type of role with regard to future opportunities potentially at the collegiate level. That is really about the grit, the passion, the love, and the understanding of the fundamentals of the sport, regardless of the sport. And you really must allow some diversification because you don't want the business. And so let's face it, the business of youth sports is to do three things: create fear, which leads to anxiety, create a sense of, I don't know anything, but you know everything, so help me. And so when you become reliant on these people, obviously they're going to in turn sell you something, whether it's a lesson or an event, a team, a camp, a showcase, equipment, that type of environment. 8 to 14 is really about allowing children to just be children. Whatever they enjoy, let them enjoy it. Obviously, as we speak as adults, everything in moderation. Do not think in any way, shape, or form about college or college recruiting or anything within that realm. That's really not applicable during those ages. The older ages, when I'm talking to parents of freshmen and through junior year, again, there should be nothing with regard to college. What you should be focused in on is participation at your high school. What does that look like? Whether it's the varsity or potentially junior varsity at some of the younger ages, freshman and sophomore. But you should be allowing an athlete to understand and gain substantial awareness as to physical growth and what they can do to help, within that arena. Don't become reliant on, there is no magic powder. There is no magic pill. It's a matter of, okay, at this age, they become more of the drivers of their own bus. Meaning, if you were to hand them the keys, would they go to the gym? Would they go seek more repetitions with regard to skill set development? Would they go and find out, play and pick up type games, whatever sport they're choosing? But college recruiting has become the carrot that every single business entity dangles in front of parents. And in reality, in today's world, and I want parents to understand, there's no real separation between Division I and all other levels of college athletics. For instance, your son Pearson's about to go to San Jacinto, and San Jacinto could roll into an SEC ballpark, I promise you, and you'll see this live firsthand, and compete with a team, in a mano-a-mano, one-game type of situation. It would be a highly competitive game. And if we look at the college super regionals this year, we have Troy, we have Cal Poly, we have Arkansas, Little Rock. I mean, we just have so many teams that used to be classified as mid-majors. My point is the talent level is getting dispersed across all levels of college. And obviously, if student athletes have a professional ambition, a goal, they'll matriculate to the higher levels of college. And those that are looking to have balance, academic, social, and athletics, they'll go to some of the lower divisions. But I think we need to understand that we are losing sight, as you alluded to the moments and memories that are created between the ages of 14 to 19, that senior year in high school. And as trivial as these may sound, driver's license, acne, relationships, boys with the girls, girls with the boys, teammates, and all the things that go on during those years, the camaraderie, the pressures internally, externally. And we kind of look over that and we don't allow athletes to kind of gain ownership of who they are as people. Like, this is where the biggest mental canyon that hits in college. And I've had so many athletes. I'm working with a parent right now. Their student athlete was a Division I baseball player out of high school, went into the portal, ended up at a JUCO in Texas. And while they were there, they walked away from the game. And they walked away from the game because what had happened was, over 6 years, from 14 to 20, their identity and their self-worth had become so wrapped up and intertwined with a sport, they lost sight of themselves. Mm-hmm. And they just gave up the sport. And tremendously talented student athlete, tremendously talented. I'm talking like starter at the JUCO Division I level in Texas, just walked away from the game. And the coach, was really responsive. But it all goes to your point of not allowing our children to be present. We want to keep talking about, yeah, you did good today, but it's not good enough for tomorrow. Or, you look really good out there today, but you're not big enough for tomorrow. You're not strong enough for tomorrow. You're not fast enough for tomorrow. Well, what about today? Heck, let's enjoy today. You're healthy, Dad. You're healthy, Mom. My brothers and sisters are healthy. And we lose sight of that. And we're all giving the reins to these gurus. Some of them have, I think most of them have good intentions. But I will tell you, when a high school coach gets a responsibility, sometimes they might take themselves a little too seriously when you say to a football athlete, hey, man, if you're not doing spring ball or lifting. I lived in Louisiana. I went through this with one of the biggest high schools in the country, perennial national, John Curtis High School, which is located in Greater New Orleans. And their head coach is 670 wins, all time, and one of the all-time winningest high school coaches. His sons are the baseball coaches, and they're also the varsity football coach. They encourage, hey, play basketball, play baseball, run track, do whatever you like. Football season, we'll have our time. You go do what you have to do. That is what we need to return to, Jeremy. Common sense, respect, common courtesy. We need to get back to that. I think that's really important as adults to have a civil conversation about that.
Absolutely, Walter. The part about memories is something that's really strong for me to encourage these parents that's listening to this podcast. As you mentioned, my oldest son, Pearson, he's headed out Saturday morning, be gone for 8 weeks training, and then he goes straight to college. He'll have about a day to come here to get us things. And, all the things that Candace and I was talking about, the different transitions of life and all of those things. And, I guess my only regret that I would have as a dad is just not enjoying those moments, enjoying every minute of it. I showed Candace a picture last night. The boys was about 4 and 2, and we was going to have a bunch of guests and cook a bunch of food. They went into the garage and they opened up a bunch of flour and was swimming it everywhere and had it all over their face. And she took a picture. She said, what should I do? I said, video it. One day we'll laugh about it. And that's what we was doing last night as my son's about to head out into the new world. And so that's my biggest thing I would agree with you on, is let your kid be a kid. And as a parent, enjoy today, enjoy every moment. If it's playing 3 sports right now, sophomore year, junior year, senior year, he might want to focus on one. That's okay. When that time comes, it comes. But don't take away those memories. As a parent, as a kid, let him be a kid. And I promise you, it'll turn out the way it's meant to be turned out. So in closing up here, Walter, I've got to ask, who's going to be playing in the College World Series? College World Series is probably my most favorite time to watch. These regionals, super regionals, I'll be watching tonight. I've got to have your pick. Who are we going to be playing in the finals and who's going to win it all?
Well, I have to be careful here because I have some coaches that I know really
I'll
well.
put you on the
So
hot seat is what you're
yeah.
saying.
So, but I really, I would say to you, the biggest super regional that I'll be watching is USC, North Carolina in Chapel Hill. Love both coaches, the staffs, they're just incredible. I do have to tell you that if I was a betting man, I would say the leader in the clubhouse with regard to the pitching, and the overall team, I think is North Carolina. You have 3 Alabama teams that are in the super regionals, which I think is a tremendous testament to the talent and the coaching of those programs. I would say Brian O'Connor at Mississippi State probably is going to lead that team to a World Series berth. One of the things that I really would encourage parents to watch this weekend that really is the signal of a great program is the execution on the biggest stage. Meaning we get so caught up in home runs and strikeouts. Yeah, okay, that's great. But I want you to watch how these teams are able to execute not only the routine plays, but also, the bunting, the movement of runners in key situations, the ability to throw a 2-1 changeup and get a ground ball. This is the epitome of, as you get up into the higher levels of sport, the funnel of talent becomes so elite that the common thread or the common separator is execution. And, Texas A&M losing to USC, it's a matter of making the pitches when they needed to make the pitches. So if I had to talk about a leader in the clubhouse that I think is going to kind of get there and kind of be in the final to win the whole thing, I think you're going to see UNC get there. One of the other interesting finals is Oregon, obviously Texas. I think Oregon is a sleeper. Coach Waz is a really elite coach, and I think Oregon has the pieces. I would watch those 2 teams coming up, vying to get to Omaha. And I can only tell you, as a parent that attended Omaha in 2014, probably the toughest national championship to win in sport, college hockey, college basketball, college football, is because you're playing elite baseball for literally 4 weeks from the end of May in the conference tournaments all the way and through Omaha. You get to Omaha, you have pool play. Then out of pool play, you go into the finals. It's 2 out of 3. It's really taxing on bodies and, more importantly, on the arms of the pitching staff. But those are the 2 teams that I would probably say to you are going to be probably there at the final end, is Oregon and UNC.
I got it, Walter. I'm putting my money on one of them. We'll see if you're right. If I don't do good on my betting, which I don't bet anyway, but if I was going to, then that's what I would do, is trust your wisdom on Oregon or North Carolina. It's a fun season, man. I love the College World Series. And as I was thinking here, as you was talking, some of your best athletes, talk about the multi-sports, played, Alex Rodriguez. I mean, some of your Derek Jeters, you go look those guys up. If you pick some of the best baseball players in the last 5, 7, 8 years, and you go look up, pretty much all of them played at least 2 sports, and a lot of them played 3 sports.
Absolutely, 1,000%. That is a fact. It's an absolute fact. And I just want to leave on this one topic.
Yeah.
I am on the back end of being, I'm a dad. My boys are 35 and 33. My 33-year-old's winding his career down. And it hit me the other day. I can't go back and touch the 10-year-old version of my boys. Please don't let any adult ever deny you. Hug your kids, spend time with the kids, because when you're going to discover this, Jeremy, you're on the cusp, you're on the doorstep. When Pearson goes away, I don't want to deliver the bad news, but over the next 10 years, you might see him collectively over that 10-year period, 1 year's worth of days where you'll be in his presence physically. Because when he's in college, hey, Dad, I don't have time. I got to go here. I got to go there. It's the season. We got practice. They come home for a couple of days. They come home for a week. And then, boom, they're off. They're off to summer ball. They're off to the Cape. They're off to whatever. And suddenly you don't spend, it's text messages and phone calls. Don't let anybody take the physical moments of you and your children away. Enjoy the ages of 8 to 23. Be with your children. I promise you, you'll never regret it.
Walter, I'm glad you mentioned that. I didn't do as good a job as I wanted to a few minutes ago. That's where I'm at in my transition of life. You know, my wife Candace has been a little bit emotional here the last couple of days. It's reality hitting Saturday morning. And that's why I was trying to do my best to explain to these parents when I hear them call me up and they have anxiety about this or that. I'm just like, oh, stop the anxiety. No time for that. You're robbing your moments. You're robbing those special memories. I love what you said. Give them a big hug, love on them.
Amen.
If they go 0 for 4, go buy them an ice cream. I
Man.
mean,
Right.
just love on those
Yep.
kids. Just
Yep.
love on those kids. Well, Walter Beede, as always, it's a pleasure and honor to do the podcast, The Process. And thank you guys for joining us today. Give us feedback on what direction. If you want us to talk about a certain topic, give us feedback. Share the podcast with friends and family. Thank you, guys. Walter, thank you.
Jeremy, thank you as always, Captain.
All proteins are not the same. I encourage you to choose a grass-fed whey protein. The cattle have a cleaner diet, grazing on natural grass, which is going to mean that it's going to have higher branched chain amino acids, also your omegas and your CLAs. I'm telling you, it matters from a recovery standpoint. Choose the best protein and you're going to see the best gains and the best recovery. I'm telling you, athletes, make a wise choice because